There's a doctor in Chicago making $380,000 a year. He drives a leased BMW. His kids go to private school. He eats at restaurants most weeknights. His mortgage is $4,200 a month. On paper, he's wealthy. In reality, he cannot come up with $5,000 without selling something or going into debt. This is not a hypothetical. According to a 2025 Goldman Sachs report, 41% of Americans earning between $300,000 and $500,000 live paycheck to paycheck. 40% of those earning over $500,000 report the same thing. Read that again. 4 out of 10 people making $500,000 a year feel they have no financial cushion. They earn more in a single month than many Americans earn in a full year, and they carry the same financial anxiety as someone earning a fraction of their salary. The assumption most people hold is that income solves financial problems. Hit 6 figures, and the stress disappears. Pass $200,000 and you're set. Cross $500,000 and money becomes irrelevant. The data tells a completely different story. What you're witnessing is called the high-income poverty trap. People earn more, spend more, save the same percentage of nothing, and wake up at 55 wondering where it all went. The trap doesn't care how much you make. It only cares how much you keep. Let me show you exactly how it works, who falls into it, and how to know if you're already caught. 1. The numbers that break the assumption. The numbers here are counterintuitive, and that's precisely what makes them important. Research cited by multiple financial institutions in 2025 found that Americans earning $100,000 annually are more likely to report living paycheck to paycheck than those earning $50,000. Higher income actually correlates with higher reported financial strain in certain brackets. A PYMNTS study found that 48% of those earning $100,000 or more feel they're living paycheck to paycheck. Among those earning over $200,000, 36% report the same. Bank of America's analysis. Defining paycheck to paycheck as spending more than 95% of income on necessities, found that approximately 20% of households earning over $150,000 qualify. These aren't people who can't do math. They're highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest. They know they should save more. The trap operates on psychology, not arithmetic. When income increases, spending increases in direct proportion. This is lifestyle inflation. And it happens so gradually that most people never notice. A $15 lunch becomes a $25 lunch. The Honda becomes a BMW. The adequate apartment becomes a house with a guest room nobody ever uses. Each individual upgrade feels reasonable. You earned it. The math technically works. But the upgrades compound while savings stay flat. And once a luxury becomes routine, downgrading feels like deprivation rather than simply returning to normal. 2. What real millionaires actually look like. The research on actual millionaires tells a completely different story than how most high earners live. The Millionaire Next Door revealed that most millionaires don't look like millionaires. They live in average neighborhoods, drive older cars, and rarely display wealth. Ramsey Solutions found that 94% of millionaires live in middle-class or modest neighborhoods. A 2025 Empower study showed that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, shop deals, and avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million threshold. The typical millionaire has rarely spent more than $399 on a single article of clothing. About 60% live in homes worth less than $500,000. Warren Buffett still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. This creates a fascinating paradox. The people who actually accumulate wealth behave nothing like the people who appear wealthy. The doctor in the leased BMW looks richer than the plumber in a 10-year-old truck, but that plumber has $2 million in investments. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door gave us 2 categories. Pause. Prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs, under accumulators of wealth. A $50,000 a year janitor can be more of a PAW than a $700,000 a year doctor. Spending habits determine the category. Income level does not. Their formula: multiply your age by your pre-tax annual income, then divide by 10. That's your target net worth. A 50-year-old earning $250,000 should have approximately $1.25 million. Those below that number are underaccumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. Most high earners fail this test dramatically. The Charles Schwab 2025 Modern Wealth Survey found that Americans believe you need $2.3 million to be considered wealthy and $839,000 just to feel financially comfortable. The median net worth of American households is approximately $193,000. When you earn $400,000 but carry a net worth of $300,000, you don't feel wealthy. You feel behind. The hedonic treadmill keeps moving, and you keep running to stay in place. 63% of Schwab respondents said it feels like it takes more money to be wealthy today than last year. Someone reaches $500,000 net worth and discovers that comfortable now requires $839,000. They reach $1 million and find that wealthy now means $2.3 million. No amount ever feels like enough because the definition of enough never stops changing. Quick pause. If this is already shifting how you think, hit subscribe. We break down exactly how money works every single week. No hype, no shortcuts, just the real picture. Now keep going because the debt numbers are next, and they're worse than you think. 03. The debt hiding in plain sight. High-income households earning over $100,000 carried an average credit card balance of $12,760 in 2025. The top 20% of earners hold 35% of total U.S. credit card debt, despite representing a much smaller share of the population. This seems paradoxical until you understand how credit works differently at higher incomes. Lower-income households use credit to survive, financing necessities, because cash runs out before the month does. Higher-income households use credit to maintain, financing a lifestyle that technically fits their income but leaves no margin for error. Both end up in the same place, owing money to someone else, with interest accruing. Total U.S. credit card debt reached $1.277 trillion in Q4 2025, the highest balance since tracking began in 1999, up 66% since the pandemic lows of early 2021. Bankrate's 2025 research found that 36% of credit card holders earning $100,000 or more carry a balance month to month. And 61% of Americans with credit card debt have been in debt for at least a year, up from 53% the year before. Debt is becoming chronic rather than temporary, even for high earners. The discretionary data shows exactly where the money goes. Food delivery spending increased 10.2% year over year from $162 to $179 monthly. Streaming services grew 12.5%. Rideshare spending increased 7.9%. Each individual line is small, but $179 a month on food delivery is $2,148 annually. Add streaming, rideshares, subscription boxes, and premium apps, and the total quietly becomes serious money that disappears without providing lasting value. The high-income version of this runs on the same psychology, just bigger numbers. First class instead of economy. Hotels instead of rooms. Restaurants instead of cooking. Each upgrade feels minor. Together they build a lifestyle that requires every dollar of income to sustain. Research shows millionaires spend differently. About 44% prioritize experiences over luxury goods, but they're selective about which experiences actually matter to them. They spend on what they value and cut ruthlessly on everything else. That selective frugality is what separates actual wealth builders from high earners caught in the trap. 04. The fixed cost trap. The fixed cost trap is particularly dangerous at higher income levels. When you earn $50,000, housing is constrained by what landlords will approve. When you earn $300,000, you qualify for mortgages that stretch your budget just as thin. The numbers are just much larger. A family earning $80,000 might spend $2,000 monthly on housing. A family earning $300,000 might spend $8,000. Both families have roughly the same percentage of income going to shelter. Both feel equally constrained. The higher income family simply has more expensive problems. Private school tuition, multiple car payments, vacation home carrying costs, country club memberships. These aren't frivolous in the traditional sense, they're lifestyle commitments that function like fixed costs once established. Pulling a child out of private school feels impossible. Selling the vacation home feels like failure. Downgrading the car feels like a public admission that things aren't going well. The trap tightens precisely because the lifestyle is so difficult to reverse. According to Clarify Capital Research, six-figure earners are already responding to the pressure in revealing ways. 47% are delaying dream vacations. 31% are stalling home renovations. 26% are postponing car purchases. 17% are pushing back on buying homes. These delays signal something important. High earners recognize they're stretched thin. They just haven't addressed the underlying spending patterns that stretch them. In high-cost cities, the trap is deeper still. Schwab survey respondents in San Francisco said you need $4.4 million to be considered wealthy. Southern California said $3.4 million. New York said $2.9 million. Someone earning $350,000 in Manhattan can genuinely feel financially constrained. Their housing, taxes, and baseline costs consume a far larger share of income than the same salary would anywhere else. They're earning coastal wages and paying coastal prices. The income advantage disappears. 0.5. The savings rate tells the whole story. The U.S. personal savings rate stood at 3.6% in December 2025, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis. Americans are saving approximately $3.60 of every $100 in disposable income. During the pandemic peak in April 2020, that rate hit 33.8%. Stimulus checks arrived, spending opportunities dried up, and Americans accidentally experienced what aggressive saving felt like. That money is long gone now. This pattern holds across all income levels, and that's the critical insight. Higher earners save slightly more in absolute dollars, but their savings rates often remain just as low because their spending scales with their income. Someone earning $75,000 who saves 4% accumulates $3,000 annually. Someone earning $300,000 who saves 4% accumulates $12,000. The higher earner saves 4 times as much in dollars, but relative to their income and lifestyle costs, they're equally exposed to disruption. Compare that to actual wealth builders. Research from the Millionaire Next Door found that millionaires typically invest at least 15% of annual income before paying for anything else. They pay themselves first. Savings are non-negotiable, not aspirational. A 2025 Goldman Sachs report explicitly cited keeping up with the Joneses as a direct driver of paycheck-to-paycheck living among high earners. People in the top 5% feel financially inadequate because they compare themselves against the top 1%, or against social media feeds filtered to show only the highlights of people who may be even more leveraged than they are. 73% of millionaires never carried a credit card balance. They stayed on the right side of compound interest, always. The average millionaire worked, saved, and invested for 28 years before crossing the $1 million mark. Most didn't get there until around age 49. The path was gradual, consistent, and completely unremarkable to watch. The difference between saving 4% and saving 15% compounds dramatically over 30 years. One builds substantial wealth. The other builds a modest cushion that probably won't sustain retirement. That gap is the measurable cost of the high-income poverty trap. 0.6. The escape route. The escape route exists. But it requires confronting a question most people actively avoid. What is all this spending actually for? The doctor making $380,000 could save $100,000 annually if he chose to. He earns enough. He just spends enough to prevent it. Choosing differently means accepting that the BMW can be a Honda. That private school may not be essential. That restaurants every night serve convenience more than nutrition. That the house with guest rooms mostly impresses people who don't matter. These sound like judgments. They're not. They're trade-offs made visible. Someone who genuinely values private education and fine dining should spend on those things, but consciously, understanding the full opportunity cost, not automatically, because that's what people at their income level are expected to do. The high-income poverty trap isn't about deprivation. It's about intention. Most people caught in it never consciously chose their spending patterns. They accumulated expenses gradually, each decision reasonable in isolation, until their entire income was committed and there was nothing left to redirect. Reversing it means auditing every recurring expense and asking honestly whether it still delivers value proportional to its cost. Often the answer is no. Subscriptions go unused. Square footage goes unoccupied. Vehicles go underdriven. Memberships provide status more than utility. The automation principle is the most reliable tool available at any income level. Saving what's left after spending doesn't work. Spending what's left after saving does. Someone earning $400,000 who automates $120,000 annually into investments will accumulate significant wealth regardless of how they spend the remaining $280,000. They'll still live well. They'll just live slightly less extravagantly than someone earning the same amount and saving nothing. The math is direct. Earn $300,000, save 30%. That's $90,000 annually. At 7% average returns over 20 years, approximately $4 million. Earn $300,000, save 5%. That's $15,000 annually. Same timeline, same returns, approximately $650,000. The difference is $3.35 million. That is the 2-decade cost of the high-income poverty trap. 79% of millionaires are self-made, no inheritance. Only 31% averaged $100,000 or more annually across their careers. Many built real wealth on modest incomes through nothing more dramatic than consistent behavior over time. They didn't earn their way out of financial insecurity. They behaved their way out. 77% of Americans don't feel financially comfortable, regardless of what they earn. 40% of people making $500,000 a year live paycheck to paycheck. Total credit card debt hit all-time highs while income sat near record levels. The evidence is clear. Income alone does not create financial security. Only intentional decisions about what portion of income to keep, rather than spend, produce the stability that most people assume a high salary automatically delivers. The high-income poverty trap is real. It is not a failure of intelligence, not a failure of effort. It is a failure of intention, and of the assumption that earning more is the same thing as having more. Breaking it is possible, but it requires admitting the uncomfortable truth. More money was never the answer. What you do with money always was. If this landed differently than you expected, share it with someone who needs to hear it. The people who need this most are often the ones who assume it doesn't apply to them. Subscribe for more of this every week. And leave a comment. Where do you think the high-income poverty trap hits hardest, the spending, the debt, or the comparison? I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.